So we'll continue our event today with a second panel, this time in English. And I'd like us to welcome two very special guests. I won't say too much about them because you probably know at least one of them, if not both of them. I know them both. But I would prefer to let them introduce themselves because they know best what they want to reveal about themselves. And may I introduce you to Abdi Hassan, who's the Director of British Council Romania and Bulgaria, right, Abdi? And Tim Pearse from National Geographic Learning, Tim is a Senior Regional Manager. Gentlemen, would you like to briefly introduce yourselves?
Bună dimineața. Is it still? Oh no, it's gone. Never mind. Good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here with you on this wonderful Saturday morning, or afternoon rather now. Couple of things before I hand over to Tim. One, most of you would have heard of Christiana talking about British Council. So British Council has been in Romania for 85 years. We focus really on two key areas, on education and culture, and English language teachers and teachers in general are some of the most important stakeholders that we have. That's why I'm very happy to spend this Saturday with you here, and thank you very much to all of you for coming. And the second thing I hope and want to share with you is that we do lots of research in pedagogical sort of development and curriculum. We can bring the insights from around 100 countries around the world. That's where we are as British Council offices, and share some of those with you and the latest thinking on English language teaching. So that's what I would hope that we can talk about today and have a useful and fruitful discussion. The last thing I'll say, I'll be very keen to hear from you as much as you'll hear from us. So please ask questions, tell us your experiences, and share your comments.
Thank you very much, Abdi. And may I just say, it's a pleasure to be here with everybody today, and it's a pleasure to be in such esteemed company as well. So my name is Tim Pearse. I'm the Senior Regional Manager for a company called Cengage. And just to briefly tell you about Cengage and how it fits into what we're speaking about today. So everything that Cengage does is geared towards skills, being future ready and career ready. Now, many of you will know the National Geographic learning resources that we publish within Cengage. But Cengage also has many different parts of the business as well. And just to give you an idea of how this fits in. So they have a library research and referencing business as part of Cengage. They have a higher education division, which is huge in the US and many parts of the world. And as you can imagine, their resources for psychology and geography, whichever degrees people study in further education and at universities. There's also a cybersecurity training division as well. And again, because what they did, they identified where the job shortages were in various countries, and this is what the company will do. And then they will look at how they can fill those gaps with the skills that people need to give them a step up in life. There's also a schools part of the business, which is National Geographic Learning, which is a K-12 part, and an English language teaching part as well. And there's one or two others. And it's just to briefly say a few things about my background. I also worked for the British Council for a short time. Back in the early 2010s, I think it was about 2010, 2011, as a business English teacher. I also had my own language school, and I know many of you here probably are from language schools and English teachers. I passed my CELTA back in 1999. So how long ago was that?
Previous century, Tim. Welcome to the club.
26 years ago. I passed my CELTAs, and I was a teacher. I also had a language school, as I said, and a study abroad business. But for the last 13 years, I've been working in the publishing and educational resources business. And I'm looking forward to sharing our ideas today. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, both of you. Very interesting background, and actually, I think we have something in common. I also work for the British Council, so
I'm amongst friends here.
Yeah, exactly.
There is very little for me to say. You can answer everything.
Okay, so we've got the same topic, and we've got some ideas from the previous panel, and I'm sure some inspiration from Abdi and team who have just introduced us to the two organizations that they represent, both of them focusing on education. So is there any of you who'd like to break the ice with any questions about transforming the future of education? Any icebreaker? Other than me? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. I hope it's not too controversial to ask, have we gotten to the point where education in the world is too digital? Or are we heading towards a point where we'll hit stop and we'll go back to tradition?
So the question was, is education too digital?
Education and the world, the
And the world.
ever-changing world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. And I think throughout history, if you look, the world has changed through technology, whether however far back we go, whether that's the Industrial Revolution, for example, people being afraid of losing their jobs because of a sewing machine, for example. I come from the north of England, which was the hub, the global hub of the Industrial Revolution. And there's lots of history around that. So we can go on from there to now. And whether the world has become too digital, I wouldn't say it's a controversial question. It essentially is where it is now, and it's not going anywhere. So it has evolved and evolved and evolved over the years. But I think what is really significant at the moment is the pace of change. And this is something we need to be aware of. Never before in history have things changed so quickly. So for me, really what's important here is this pace of change and how people can handle the pace of change. Is it too digital? Is a very subjective question. So some people will say yes, lots of people will say no, of course. So as we go into this, I'm not going to answer this with a straight yes or no, because like I said, because of the subjectivity that we have. So it might suit some cultures and some nations to be more digital, and it might, just with others, to take a little step back. Obviously, there are countries as well, very openly, whether you agree with it or not, who are deciding to remove digital from the classroom as well. I'm not sure personally. I don't think that's a good idea because I don't think it can be avoided. I think what we need is a measured response to this. And as for me, as long as it's measured and it's managed, then it's fine to have digital. When I say digital, it means many, many things within education. So, like I said, it's quite a subjective question. It's not controversial, and we're here to have an open discussion. So we really appreciate those kinds of questions as well. Abdi, do you want to add something to that?
First of all, thank you very much for asking the first question and breaking the ice. And just to take a cue from Tim's coming from the north of England, I come from a place called Wales, south of Wales, which is now is a post-industrial space. We had some of the largest coal mining areas. In fact, just half a mile away from where I live in Cardiff, the first ever globally, a check that was written with a number of 1 million was written in a place called the Coal Exchange, that is sort of partly a museum, partly residential, high-class apartment, as we seem to be moving in the UK nowadays. But that's where we come from. Now, I don't think it is digital enough. I'm going to go controversial on the other side. It's all because we have this word digital that encompasses tremendous area of things, and it can be used in different ways. It can be used in ways that are a little bit more negative and have that negative connotation, or it could be more positive. The question is, how are we using that digitization? So at one point, well, let me give you a couple of examples from the work that we have done in some parts of the world. There is a massive program that is happening in parts of India with Microsoft on digitizing teacher preparation notes. So rather than a teacher spends 6 to 7 hours a week preparing notes, preparing lessons, doing the marking, all of that stuff, all of that is taken and done digitally. So teachers are trained on how to use Microsoft Copilot, which is based on ChatGPT, to help with the ability to put together lessons, and the only thing that they need to do is to follow it up and make sure that it makes sense. What that meant for teachers is that they had more time for face-to-face interaction with the students, more time to engage, more time to help students who are falling behind, more time to support students, engage with them, give them critical thinking. But also what it meant was, just by the introduction, even in some of the rural areas where electricity is not reliable, by the introduction of the overhead projector, which is relatively not that expensive nowadays, they've been able to open up a fantastic world of videos that they can prompt, images that helps and comes from their own environment. Because when I was in school, the videos and the prompts that I studied in different parts of the world, they used to be just transported from somewhere, and you just look at them not knowing what you are looking at, or have no relation to that engagement. Another example of that is some of the work that was done in Kenya when we first started talking about climate change, and some of the municipalities there adopted curriculum from Europe. So you had lots of children in Kenya being taught about snow management, where actually what they're suffering from is desertification. So it's a whole different ballgame in terms of being able to do things in your place and closer to your environment. I'll just end with saying that what we need to focus on is the basic skills at the younger age of students. So we can't go in one swing, go completely digital, everything is digital, or say completely nothing at all, as exactly Tim has said. We have to be able to start with basic education in terms of basic numeracy and literacy. We have to be able to teach children how to be able to write using pen and paper and to engage in groups. And then at the right moment, use AI to help, not to replace. Teachers will never be replaced. Is how can you use AI to enhance, to support? And if you look through your day, AI works really, really well when it's there to enhance, when it's there to make life easier and better, not when it's there to do something for you. We're talking about how fast AI has moved, but to this day, you can't get AI, for instance, to book a plane ticket for you, because there are too many variables. They will crack that, but you'd still need to have. It can do the research for you. It can do the notes for you that makes life easier for you. So one last piece of information I'll say as how this is becoming more prevalent. For the British Council, which we are around 10,000 employees around the world, roughly around that. From the next couple of months, almost everyone in the British Council will have access to AI as day-to-day work. So we will use it for drafting emails, for summarizing work, for reading reports, because we can't, it's better, the organization has realized it is better to give us the tools rather than everyone is uploading confidential documentation into something else. And that's one way for us to realize we can't be on the sidelines of it. And it's the same for education. Education cannot be on the sidelines of digitization.
Thank you so much.
If I may just add something, we've moved on to AI in the first question, which is great. Straight in there, get it out of the way. But I'm sure there'll be many more opportunities to speak about AI. And I really agree with what Abdi said then. We at National Geographic Learning, when we started our Spark platform back in about 2020, 2019, we did research with around 3,000 teachers. The two top things which came out of this research is they wanted something that will save them time, and they wanted something that was easy to use. So when we look at this from the teacher's point of view or the institutional point of view, if you think about a teacher and all of the jobs that teachers do when they teach, a teacher just does not just teach. A teacher prepares the lessons. They might do placement tests. They might do exit tests. They might do one-to-ones with their students in a sense of, tutorials, for example. All of those jobs that teachers do. What we've done within these platforms that we have, and we currently have around 80,000 teachers on this platform, we are saving teachers time. So there's a group of teachers who are not using this digital, but they're still doing they're still assigning homework themselves, for example, on paper. They're marking this homework themselves. There's all of those, what I call back-end jobs, which can be automized, and they can save teachers time, and they can save institutions time as well. And I'm sure there'll be more scope and opportunity to speak about AI as we move on through the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Yeah. Is it still working? Sorry. Electric shock. Yeah. Exactly. Probably in 2040, when we meet again, we won't need microphones anymore. Yeah. It seems that people attending online agree with you, both of you, especially when it comes to the idea that teachers will never be replaced by AI. So thank you very much for your comments. Any other questions? Oh, wow. Let's see. Question from there and then a question from there. Okay. Namin?
Alice talked about getting our students or learners future ready. What does that mean to you? And is there some aspect of what we do now in education that you think should be stopped?
A little bit of drying. That's a very good answer, and a very good question, rather. It will be a very good answer. You see, psychological games. I've made some notes last night as I was thinking of that, something similar about what we mean by future ready, what we mean by 21st skills, those types of things. And I had to go back to what were the most desirable skills for a workforce in the 1920s, so 100 years ago. And 100 years ago, the key industries were agriculture, manufacturing, and heavy industries. So number one, based on research that was done, and I'll tell you a little bit about when they've looked at 2022, number one was physical strength. Was your ability to go from where you live to down the mine, be able to move heavy loads, carry stuff. That was number one back then. The ability to do certain tasks repetitively. Because if you worked in a mine, if you worked in a factory, you were doing that over and over again for the best part of your life, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever the lifespan at that time was. The discipline and routine, which is essentially following instructions. You are told to stand there, you will stand there for 5 hours. We don't want you to think about it, we don't want you to debate about it, we want you to follow instructions and routine. And then finally, for those who were, and this was really an eye-opener for me last evening, for those who were in middle management, basic numeracy and literacy. And it said basic. So they can essentially count how many people they need for a shift, and they sort of figure out how much they need to pay them. Now, if you contrast that to some of the work that is being done in Wales as part of the curriculum development, because Wales is looking at modernizing and changing the curriculum. We've done some research in Wales, and we found out that back in 2020, the curriculum that was being taught to students, or at least the knowledge part of it, was pre-Google. It was the curriculum that was developed in the early 90s. So it was becoming more and more difficult to be able to teach that curriculum effectively. And now there was a moment for the Welsh education system to think, and of course we have what's called devolution in the UK. So that's why I'm talking about Wales rather than the whole of the UK, because education in Wales is separate from education in England. So in Wales, we thought about what are the top skills that we need this new curriculum to deliver. And the top 3 or 4 were around resilience and flexibility, being able to, because as Tim was saying, the base of change is phenomenal. So to be resilient to that change, flexible to it, so you can move forward with it. I'll tell you a quick example or a story that I came from Timisoara 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was meeting with the municipality, the mayor, the vice mayor of Timisoara, and she was telling me that one of their biggest problem as part of the civil service of the city was trying to get people to use AI to draft letters and communication, because they are not willing to be flexible with it. And in fact, some of the people were looking at an email, drafting it by hand, and then typing it again, let alone using AI. So the second thing is around problem solving. One of the things that we are always told as part of workforce and leadership, do not go to your line manager with a problem without a solution. You have to think about problem solving continuously, constantly, all the time. So that is part of the curriculum. Critical thinking with the prevalence of AI, and comes with it disinformation. And you would have seen that in Romania during vaccine skepticism, what's happening in the political landscape in the last elections and how that was annulled because of foreign interference through TikTok. That can be solved with critical thinking. Being able to think through, is this true? Is this AI? Is it fake? Is it not? And the last couple of things I'll add, communication and emotional intelligence. Now, the bit that AI will never teach us is emotional intelligence, is our ability to engage, to work as a group of people, to come together, to solve a problem, to persuade people to your point of view. So I'll say a little bit more about Wales in a moment as we develop, but those, going back to Nermin's question, those are the skills that we think about for the future. And those are the skills that we think is going to endure for anything that is human interaction based will be better than process and automation.
Would you like to add anything? Thank you very much, Abdi.
If I may just add to that, so thank you, Abdi, as well. So we've also done similar research within our company, and I'm going to come at this from 2 sides. The first one is, what are the future-ready skills that you need? And Abdi has already mentioned some of these. We have separated this into 4 sections, and we've integrated these into the resources and courses that we have. So those sections that we identified were, the first one is interpersonal skills. And they include things such as active listening, collaboration, empathy, interview skills, managing people, and negotiation skills, for example. The second one, and Abdi mentioned some of these, is thinking skills. And that will be things like active learning. And actually learning is going to be vital as well, because as we spoke about, the speed of change and this pace of change, this is going to be a real skill that people will need. It's how to learn, and how to learn quickly. Creative thinking, critical thinking, problem solving, as we mentioned. Decision making, for example. The third one is self-management skills. And these are things like time management, goal setting, adaptability, resilience as well. And money management, we also identified as well. And the last one is digital literacies. And that might be things such as data literacy, emailing that we spoke about, use of AI, media literacy, presenting with digital, with video that we spoke about a little bit earlier, communicating online, these kinds of things. So they're the 4 segments that we've identified and we've built our framework around. Now the problem is, with this speed of change, if we take the smaller children at school, in primary school, the vast majority of jobs today will have disappeared by the time they go into the world of work. So it's very, very difficult for the education system to prepare these children for the world of work, because many of the jobs of today will no longer be around. But there are, of course, those transferable skills that you have as well. And just the last part, which we looked at here, I have a list of the most in-demand job skills. Would anybody like to take a guess, perhaps? Maybe I can just open it up. What would be in your top 5 most in-demand job skills today? Say it again, sorry? Okay, menial jobs are forever. I think that's a good point. I mean, things like plumbers, electricians, bricklayers, they will be the ones who may last out longest. It's a really good point. Which are the in-demand job skills when we're speaking about the digital world in which we live? Okay, yeah. With data analytics, yeah. Communication, yeah. Okay. So in the 5th most in-demand job skill is emotional intelligence, which I think Abdi mentioned, having the human edge. Yeah. Number 4, we mentioned, was complex problem solving. Even if you have all this digital and AI, you still need people who can solve these problems and who can integrate these systems into companies as well, or into, whatever it is, into organizations. Number 3 was perpetual learning agility, the need and the skill to be able to learn. Number 2 was digital transformation leadership, and how you can transform the skills to be able to transform organizations into more digital organizations. And number 1, it's probably no surprise, was AI fluency. Being fluent in the use of AI. Now, I think it's great that the British Council is offering all of its employees, 10,000, I think Abdi said, the ability to use AI. We, in our company at Cengage, have been using AI for a long time now, actually. I don't know if everybody has had that ability or not. And actually, I use it on a daily basis, I have to say. It's been really, really helpful. There's also many things going on behind the scenes that are driven by AI that I don't know is actually happening there. So they were the top 5 skills. So the question was, what does it mean to be future ready? So we've looked at the skills, and we've looked at the competencies that people will need, or students will need, to be career ready and to be future ready. I've kind of forgotten, though, there was a second part to your question that you said at the end.
I was asking if you think there's something that we are doing now in education, an aspect that we should actually stop.
We should stop. Okay.
Sorry, I completely forgot the second half. That's why we need AI to make notes. So in curriculum development, one thing is really important. If you're going to add something, remove something. You have to, if we're going to give more time to critical thinking, emotional intelligence, we have to be really judicious of what else are we going to include in this curriculum. What can students, we need an education system that's similar to some of the universities, where we introduce you to the subject, we give you a depth of knowledge and understanding, and then you can go and build on it. We can't teach you the whole thing, because then we won't have time for all the things and the skills that we've mentioned, because the reason we're here today is that those skills are not in the current curriculum and current way of teaching. So if we're going to introduce them, when are we going to do that? And therefore it comes, what do we need to remove? And this becomes then really based on your legislative framework, the environment, the employers, parents, students. One thing I want to touch on very quickly, which is one of the things that one of our teachers said around manual jobs will always be there. Now that is true. If you want to be a plumber, you can be a plumber, and you can be a very good plumber. But some of the things that digital and the use of digital is changing, and how they are not feasible. So for instance, I try to do some basic, really basic DIY, which means I spend a lot of weekends watching YouTube videos about plumbing, because I'm trying to be more helpful to my wife, and failing quite badly. But what you will see nowadays is that plumbers who have fiber optic cameras and put them in the drainage system to be able to see where the blockage is, to be able to, you start having filters that are AI optimized or digitally optimized. So it tells you when the water filter needs to be changed. It tells you the type and the quality of water that is coming through. If I'm a plumber, I'm employed by myself, I need to be able to use the optimization of Google to, how will people find me? To be able to do all of these things that people do on marketing. So before you know it, in one hand, you're working with your both hands, you're on your knees, you're trying to get a pipe fixed. But to get to there, you need some really good levels of understanding digital, language, numeracy, being able to invoice people, to do marketing, to communicate. You need to speak to someone who doesn't understand completely what you're talking about and communicate to them and explain to them where the blockage is, where the issue is, give them that emotional intelligence, give them assurance that this will be fixed, it will not come back, there's all of those stuff. So I would say do not write off a piece of work that is being done or a job that you see in and thinking AI has no connection to it. Driving, for instance, used to be one of the things that people do is manual. You didn't need to have any education. But to be an Uber driver now, you have to have at least 3 or 4 screens. You have to understand how to engage with it, use the AI of it, sort of all of this stuff. And the newer models of cars are far more complex than they used to be. So even to be a mechanic to fix them, you almost have to have a degree to engage with it. So that's why this digital engagement, that's why I don't think it's gone far enough in terms of education. We need to do more of it because it will be ubiquitous in our life.
Just to add, thank you, Abdi. Just to add to what Abdi has said there, I mean, he's absolutely right. I think we need to move quicker with introducing these skills into the classroom. The problem is that to introduce them, you have to pull something out of the curriculum because there's no time. The second part of this, which I would want to add to, is that you need teachers who are capable of teaching those skills as well. And that takes time. So this needs to be, you need to be thinking forward as a Ministry of Education with the training of teachers, what you would remove from the curriculum. I'm not a curriculum specialist at all here. And this, this has been going on for a long, long time. And I think it's pretty clear that the curriculum in most countries, I suspect, has not changed for quite a while here. I know, and Abdi will correct me on this perhaps, there has been talk of introducing critical thinking classes in the UK. As I don't know if it's just integrated into an existing class or if it's run as a separate subject. Do you know?
One of the things we're trying to do is to run it through everything,
Okay.
rather than having a standalone. Yeah. But it's a debate that we are still settling.
And actually, sorry, just one more thing to add. And that critical thinking has been going on for a long, long time. This is nothing new. I'm not going to name any names, but there's been many British newspapers that sprouted rubbish for centuries. So being able to think critically is actually not a new, is not a new skill. So I'll stop there because I'm sure we'll continue the conversation as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to get back a little bit, I've got a question from online and then there's a question there. So get back to what you mentioned as being the kind of foundation to anything you build up on in terms of digital literacy and everything else. And I mean reading, basic reading and writing as well as numeracy. There's a question I'd like to ask. Talking about basic education and fostering emerging reading and writing skills, what do you consider to be an efficient approach? Efficient approach to developing, fostering emerging reading and writing skills.
So I'll answer this from a personal level. I don't think my 2 children, they'll hate me for saying this, read enough at all. I still believe in lots of reading. I don't think that's a subjective opinion. I think most people would agree with that. I don't mind whether that comes from reading on a screen or reading a print book, as long as even adults, are focused for some time and they understand what they're reading. I think there is a debate to be had, and I've had this conversation with my children, and also many other children in the countries I've visited. And I think there is a slight difference to when Abdi and I were growing up, many, many decades ago. Sorry, Abdi. And that is, nowadays, there are far more distractions for children particularly. They are being bombarded with social media. They're being bombarded with television, with YouTube, with these short video clips and TikTok, which gets into their head. Their focus is far lower, I believe, for reading particularly. And I say reading because I've seen my son play video games for 5 hours in a row. And he is focused when he plays these video games. And what I would say then to digital literacy, do we need to change something to improve reading skills for digital literacy? The question is, I still believe you can still teach, and I still think you actually need to teach basic literacy skills in schools. I've got no problem with that, because actually you need to learn to read, whether you're reading from a book, reading from a screen. The literacy skills that you have, they might be digital literacy skills, for example, which come into the classroom. Video as well, I think, plays a strong part of this. So I think actually with reading, this is just a personal thing, I do believe we still need to teach the fundamentals of reading, and that's just my personal feeling on this.
And freeing up some disk space, maybe. Abdi, thank you very much, Tim. Abdi, would you like to add on this?
I think quite a number of, from what I have been able to follow, because my Romanian is rather limited and I was relying on Google Translate, because of course I can't talk about digital without using digital tools. But Nicolita had some really good tips on engaging in the classroom. And there is, we need to be careful of having this divide of either digital or not digital, because that isn't the case. You have to have space and patience and time to teach children properly how to read and write. That's a starting point. So they have to get to a level which is usually around 8 or 9. This is what the UNESCO and UNICEF agrees on, that at that age, a child should be able to have good numeracy and literacy skills. And they can't really move into using digital tools and apps and all of those things, because those are only modality. It's the mode of how we deliver knowledge rather than the knowledge itself. So that's a starting point. We need to be able to teach them, and we could do some interesting stuff with them. So for instance, I'm dyslexic. Now, I also really love reading. However, I do 2 things or 3 things. If I want to get a piece of information really quickly, if I want to know, so 2 weeks ago, I was trying to remind myself how to make an orange cake. Now, the easiest thing for me to do, and that's how I use it, TikTok. Go on TikTok, it's visual, I can see how to make it, I can make it within an hour. Now, if I want to go and read in depth about the history of the Roman Empire in one part of the world, that's not gonna be a job for TikTok. That would be a proper book. But what I do is I would purchase the physical book along with the audio book, and I would listen and read, which is called an immersive reading. So it is not a matter of one or the other. It is a matter of how can we protect those initial years of getting the children up to a level that they can read and write properly, and truly read and write properly, and understand grammar, understand the syntax, the structure, which you know far better than both Tim and I, because I'm even at a more disadvantage of Tim because I'm not a teacher. To then move into something that more complex and digital. So that question is really important, and having the space for it is still important. And if you come, we teach around 6,000 to 7,000 students English every year in Romania. if you come to the British Council classrooms, which are just across the road, the predominant use in our classrooms are still pen and paper, especially for the younger children, to be able to read and write and engage with it. Yes, we've got smart boards, we've got videos, all of that, but we still use pen and paper. We don't give digital, smartphones and digital tablets to children. If you're an adult, it's slightly different. Then we use platforms to track your reading and writing. And I'll
Thank
stop
you
there.
very much.
Just to one thing that Abdi said, I mean, I was a teacher a long, long time ago. When I was a teacher, I was still using cassettes.
Yeah.
For audio, that has changed, and I haven't been a teacher for a long time. Thank you, Abdi.
Thank you both.
Yes.
May I ask you a question, please?
Hi there.
Hello.
Well, most of the questions have already been answered because by Tim and Abdi, but I still got one. So you remember that Sir Ken Robinson said one school kills creativity? And my question to you guys, do you think that AI kills human thinking altogether? Because, you know, when you, one thing is to search, like you do a Google search with the AI, and I know, be satisfied with your results. And the other one is the one that our teenagers and young students use today, basically forgetting to think. They're very happy with the results, and that would be all for them. But, and the second question, if you may allow me, it is connected with your work in National Geographic and the other printed materials. How do you accommodate the printing teaching materials in the age of AI? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Just let me make one note.
Just as Tim is making that note, you talked about thinking.
Okay.
What do you mean by thinking? So how do you define seeing someone thinking?
For instance, if I want to create something, like a story, right? So I can do it from the beginning with my mind, and I could be happy with just prompting the AI to I don't know, I would tell them to build for me something like a Romeo and Juliet style story. And, well, that it is. So this is thinking. I mean, I use my mind to create this from the beginning up to the end. And if you don't train your mind, then in time, I think you'll be losing it.
Let me tell you a little bit about what we've done at Cengage. We were one of the first educational publishers, if not the first, to introduce AI into our resources. So the question is, essentially, does AI kill human thinking? What we took a decision on, or our executive team at that time, and it was the right decision in my opinion. You cannot just have AI for students that gives them the answers. They will not need to think at all then. So what we integrated, and I believe what most educational publishers are doing, is an AI assistant. And it's essentially an AI built into the platforms that we have that coaches the student to find the answer and gives them additional information rather than just giving them the answer. If you give them the answer, A, you go down the route of A, is the answer actually correct? And B, has the student actually done any work to get that answer? Is there that what I might call stickability in their head from having the process? So the process of actually getting to the answer is really important. So with that AI, and it's actually been very, very well received. We first introduced it in our higher education resources that we have in our higher education division, and it's been extremely well liked by both lecturers and by students as well. So, does it kill thinking? I think there is probably something in that it can do if you just have AI that gives the answers. However, that's probably no different to when the internet came about and was launched, and we had the same conversation then. If you can just Google something and get the answer, what's going to happen? And I'll just tell you a little story here. My wife works for an insurance company, and she processes insurance claims. And she refused a claim. She refuses lots of claims. So she refused the claim. And then somebody came back with all this argument about why it was wrong that it was refused. And she said, it's strange, where have you got this information from? And she said, I got it from ChatGPT, that you're wrong. And actually, ChatGPT was completely wrong, what it said. The company has its policy, and it's very, very true. Not everything that you will use AI, ChatGPT, Claude, whichever AI you're using, Gemini, may not have the right answers, to be frank. And Sir Ken Robinson's talk is actually, that was the leading TED talk for many, many years about killing creativity, how schools kill creativity. It was actually in one of our TED Talks courses that we had in the keynote course. And it became one of our most popular lessons that we integrated into our courses. Before I answer the second part, I'll let Abdi go on the first part.
Thank you. I'll take something that Tim said that is really interesting about this evolution of us thinking, have we lost a skill that we used to use? Now, by putting your hand up, put your hand up, please, if you know your mobile number by heart, if you memorized your mobile number. Right. Keep your hand up if you know one more mobile number. So you know yours and you know one more, okay? Keep your hand up if you know 3 mobile numbers. Some of you are really good. Thank you very much.
That's it, no more.
I thought I won't push it. I genuinely remember from having a conversation with a math teacher in the 1990s and her reciting, they were not mobile numbers, they were landline numbers, 25 landline numbers that she knows. Because all of the people that she needed to call. I remember my father having a small notebook that everyone used to carry with reams and reams of names and numbers. We don't do them anymore. So have we lost the skill to remember? Well, that's a good cue. Have we lost the skill to remember numbers? But do we miss it? Is it really important? So for me, it depends. That's why I was asking, what do we mean by thinking? So if you have to sit in a corner and think through a problem, as we used to do long time ago, when you just go do research, think through it again, do research, think through it again, think through the steps. That as a skill, I don't think we will lose it. And those who will lose that skill will lose it at their peril. They will not be able to be functioning members of society. They will not be able to produce. So it's won't be an issue that we have to deal with. It's going to be an issue for those who cannot think through problems. But what will happen is the methodology and how we think will change.
But I think it's also for the generations to come, not for us, that we are trained to think. I mean, if they're not used to it, on a longer term, they might be losing this ability and skill.
No, please. If you pass the microphone to this, sorry, I'm taking over your apologies.
Please. Thank you very much, Abdi.
What I was going to say is every generation, I'm very mindful of always having an issue with, because we've all lived through that, where we think the next generation is more doomed. It has been the story of humanity that the next generation is more doomed. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't do things properly. I think the same about my children, but they're too small now. And I think, of course, my generation is the best that ever lived. So I think people will survive. People will come up with it. We might not be able to. So my mother still calls me on the phone, and I leave her WhatsApp voice notes. She doesn't listen to them. She'll still call me because that's what she knows. Now, compare that to my little nieces and nephews who don't even want to hear my voice and they only want to do emojis. How was your day? It's an emoji. That's about it. That's all I can get, and that's a really good communication. So Do I think it's a good communication skill? No, it isn't. But I think it's their way of discovering a new way of engagement.
Did you want to add something just before I go into the second part?
Yes, I wanted to add something. I was thinking while I was listening, how can we enhance emotional intelligence in a digital world? Maybe that's the solution. And at the end of it, I think intelligence has a lot to do with creativity. So people that are capable of thinking creatively, no matter how the world is going to turn out in 10, 20, 100 years, this skill is as important as emotional intelligence and the skill of using AI. And because this is, in my mind, I know, I understand AI. It's like looking at Picasso paintings, honestly. And then I hear, develop a skill to interpret a Picasso painting. So I would honestly want to know somebody, because I'm not a stupid person. I am capable of thinking and being creative and being able to express my opinion when somebody is asking, what do you see when you look at a Picasso painting? But what should I do? How should I teach myself the skill to be able to work hand in hand with AI, keeping the balance, keeping my emotional intelligence, and being able to offer creative, authentic, and relevant answer to the question, what do you see when you look at the Picasso painting? I don't know if...
I think the word you mentioned there is balance. And I think you're 100% correct in that. And I think there will be two kinds of people as there are now. There will be those people who have the balance and think for themselves and creatively think. And there are some people, and sadly I know some people, who just turn to Google for absolutely everything. And they will turn perhaps to AI for all the answers. And to me that's a bit sad, really. So there'll be those, I think as it is now, and as it was with the internet and search engines, be quite similar, but I 100% agree with you. It will be about finding that balance and how you will use it to your advantage.
And
as well.
Because it's not just about me, it's about my students.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really trying my best to teach them,
Yeah.
or at least to notice the balance. Because I do agree 100% with him. Everything is theory, and when in practice, I see them. They're not using AI as they should. They are using it as a tool. Okay, I need to find solutions. They're not thinking of the solution anymore.
This goes into what I said, that what we did, we introduced AI assistance rather than AI that gives you the answer. And it's about finding the process and finding out that answer for yourself, still using your brain and your thinking. And I think that's the way forward for education. It's about AI assistance and coaching, not AI that just gives you an answer.
So it's about higher order thinking skills, rather than, lots,
Exactly.
as we call it.
If I may just move on to the second part of the question, which was, how does printed materials go with AI? And it's a really good question and a really good point. And I think about this from our former general manager of National Geographic Learning, who was essentially our guru, and somebody I had a huge amount of time and respect for, a gentleman called Dennis Hogan. He was the one who started the National Geographic Learning business in ELT. And I want to kind of give this analogy of what he said. And I'm not going to say it as if it's my idea, because I would feel a fraud for stealing it. So he said, and this was about digital in general, but it also goes with AI as well. He sees this as a television and a radio moment rather than a horse and cart and the car moment. So when the car was invented, of course, it completely, very, very quickly removed the horse and cart as a mode of transport. And many people thought that when the television was invented, radio would die. It hasn't, actually. Radio has adapted, and it's gone from strength to strength to strength. Radio is now on television, it's on the internet, there's podcasts, which is essentially what radio is. And I see digital and AI with printed resources in a similar way, that they will complement each other and they will go hand in hand, that one will not destroy the other. So I very, very much see it as a radio and a television moment, not as a car and a horse and cart moment. They will work together, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just a second. Well, yeah.
What do you think about the first fully digitalized school launching tomorrow, teacherless, and having kind of VTubers instead of teachers, hiding behind anime avatars? It is on. I mean, it is planned as the next step of the evolution. What do you think about that? Because some parts of the world say that this would be the next step. In Japan.
In Japan, okay. I was going to ask where, because I still represent the British Council and I would like to have a job tomorrow. That sounds to me like a dystopian world. Yeah, no, they can. They are. So one thing, there are two stuff that always happens. So again, let's keep this between us in this room and the 2,000 people who are watching us. And as the representative of British Council, I'm not allowed to have political opinions, but I'm going to share a pseudo-political opinion at least. So one thing that the new UK government that has been in power for a year and a half, people started talking to them about AI. What we're going to do about AI. AI is an issue. So one way that governments deal with this is to have a fantastic announcement and launch. So we had a fantastic announcement to say AI will be at the center of lots of things in the UK. We're going to put aside extra billions of pounds to deal with it and watch this space. A year on, we're still watching the space. There was this moment of trying to respond to that. So there's sometimes this signaling to get on the headlines. Famously, the UAE, which some of you may know as Dubai, Abu Dhabi, so forth, have launched the first fully AI-empowered digital ministry. What does it really do? I don't know. I haven't seen what it does. I haven't seen how it engages with. They famously have a ministry called the Ministry of Happiness. And they look at that. So there are lots of these titles that take place at different parts of the world. That is interesting. That brings us to have a conversation this morning. But no, I think that is tremendously dystopian. One of the things that we talk about, or not we, but I come across a lot, is the use of AI in medical care. And the fact that now for imaging interpretation, so this is CT scans, X-rays, and whatever it is, we are getting to a point that AI interpretation is better and really surpassing the interpretation of doctors with 20 years experience. Because it lends itself to that. It can look at an image and really interpret it, rather than a doctor in their 50s who might have a little bit of failing eyesight and they need lights and they may miss something. However, are we all going to go and stand in front of X-ray machines and then go and speak to AI? No, because the role of the doctor is going to be engaging with the patient. That is going to be engaging with the patient, talking to the patient, and then thinking through the patient as a full human, not just a system. You know, you have a lungs problem, then we'll deal with that, but then this may have other ramification. It may not work for your lifestyle, and so forth. So that's the world we're looking for, is AI being there as an assistant, as Tim said, as a supporter, as a enabler, not as a replacement. And I wouldn't send my children to that school at all.
I haven't heard of this school. It doesn't surprise me it's in Japan. Japan is a country of extremes. I was in Japan back in 2020, and it is the most high-tech society and the most low-tech society I have been to. And it's still, from what I understand from people there, it's still as it was. It was very difficult to pay by card in restaurants. Everything was in cash in Japan, bizarrely. Seriously. They still smoke in restaurants in Japan as well. In the ministries there, they still use filing cabinets with paper. So at the same time in Japan, you have this really, really high-tech society, but then it balances itself out somewhere with this very low-tech society as well. It will be interesting to see how the school goes. I'm trying to understand, though, if it's a school that legally fits into the Ministry of Education, because the Ministry of Education must have some kind of standards that have to be adhered to. Maybe they have, maybe they've allowed it, I don't know. So it'll be interesting to follow the progress of this school. But it does sound, I have to agree with Abdi, it sounds very dystopian.
Boost performance.
So is it a school that's like an after school? So they go to school and this is an after school? Or is it they go there full time? Okay. Yep, okay. Well, then time will tell, I guess, how we... But it might be only for some... Like I said, I don't know, I haven't heard of this school. Yeah.
I don't want us to dwell on this in particular thing, but then why would you go? That's the other question. I have a television at home, I have internet, I can pay, I don't know, what was it, 40 RON to join YouTube. Why do I need to go? That would be the other argument.
I mean, the other side of this, I would add, is school is not just about having lessons, it's about making friends, it's about communicating with other students. And the skills that we spoke about, those interpersonal skills that I mentioned earlier, the collaboration, the cooperation, the empathy, I think they're skills which are needed within groups and within peers as well.
Thank you very much. So we're talking about cutting edge technology, we're talking about AI, we're talking about, dystopic indeed schools opening around the world. Now, I'd like you to tell us how you see disadvantaged children, people in general, in this picture. And I think we're facing this, in the developing world as well as in developed countries throughout the world.
So, by disadvantaged children, I mean, you can look at this in various ways. There are disadvantaged children who are dealing with poverty and come from poorer areas, and technology, digital learning, and AI may actually support these children as well. One thing we've looked at very closely within our company is how we can create autonomous learners, and this supports disadvantaged children as well. We want children, though, to have a good experience at school. And if they have a good experience at school, if they're enjoying school, they have that intrinsic motivation, not just the extrinsic motivation, that they will go on to study outside of classroom time and be interested in that subject matter that they're learning. And this actually may help the more digital and technology which is integrated into the school system may give those disadvantaged children some advantages moving forward. One thing that AI will do for every student in the future, every student will have a personalized learning system in their pocket. And even when we speak about disadvantaged children from poorer backgrounds, nearly always they have some device. Whether that's a mobile phone, a laptop, a tablet, most disadvantaged children have that device. and they will have, sometime in the future, access to a personalized learning system. The other thing I would say about disadvantaged children might be children with special educational needs as well, who are at a disadvantage in the classroom. I think this kind of technology, whether it's AI or whichever technology, will help children with special educational needs, and it will give them a step up and a helping hand as well. I'm not an expert in this area, so I'm not going to be able to go into detail, but they're the two sides that I would see. Having a personalized learning assistant in your pocket, I'm absolutely sure that will happen. And for disadvantaged children, with, like I said, in the classroom, special educational needs comes into it. I'm sure that, this will actually be quite positive as technology grows and changes.
Thank you, Tim. Would you like to build on that, Abdi?
Before that, I've just realized there was a question about emotional intelligence that we didn't really touch on, so I'm going to take a couple of minutes to do that. But could you put your hand up if you deliberately teach emotional intelligence in your classrooms? Fantastic. How? How do you do it?
At the beginning of each English class, I make a scale of emotions, and I teach each children to speak about how are they feeling in that day.
Yeah. Would you mind giving the yes, please?
I notice their emotions, and if they hold their hand like that, I assume they have a toothache, and I don't ask them to speak, for example, and all the other students would say, "I'm sorry for you."
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to share how they teach emotional intelligence?
Yeah, I have a poster in my classroom where I have different zones, like what zones are you? Are you in a red zone or a green zone, orange zone? And then there's different motions, how they're feeling. And then there's some things that you can do. Actually, I ordered from Temu. It's a good resource if anybody is interested.
I do have a game which is called the empathy game, which you can find in Cărturești. And it's brilliant because it's got lots of cards with questions about memories, about feelings, and I ask them to choose. And if they don't want to answer that question, of course, they won't answer. The others will have to listen, and there is a cube, and they have to roll the cube. And on each side, you have color, you have, just a second, a drawing, and other things, connected to the senses. And the others have to listen and then draw or choose a color or other things connected to the story that they listen to.
Please, let's come back to you, and then we'll...
Once in a while, because I can't do it every day, I do a trust circle in which we learn about fears and trusting other people, and learning how to build trust in a group. So we gather in a circle, and each student takes turn. The others are going to catch him when he's going to drop backwards without seeing who's there to catch him.
That instantly sort of worries me from a health and safety perspective, but that's a very UK... I'll say a couple of things about...
Once in a while, but they usually gather together and they do catch.
I'm glad.
It's a simple drop.
Yes, please, yes.
I think a lot of these things work with younger kids, but I teach more older kids or secondaries, and I think it's not just about it's also about reflection. So after a task, like what did you find challenging, or how would you have done it differently? So getting them to also think about what they've done, and teaching things like taking turns, making them work in pairs, assigning leadership roles or different roles. So all of these things also help them develop emotional intelligence.
Thank you very much. We should have Namin on the stage next time.
And I also show them pictures of people feeling differently, and I ask them to identify the feeling and to try to guess the cause of this kind of feeling, and if they can relate to this feeling and when they felt like that. And after that, I ask them to look around in their classroom and spot some faces that are not like theirs, and to try to understand or to figure out what might have happened to them, and try to find solutions together, but not all the time. I mean, once a week or once in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I move on to vulnerable students, emotional intelligence is one of the most important skills in our lives in general. And you only recognize that when you see someone who does not have it or unable to have it, particularly with people who are neurodivergent. So if you have someone with autism or Asperger's syndrome or some of those other neurodivergents who find it really difficult to process human emotions and show them, then you will see how limiting the fact that of not having emotional intelligence can be. And in fact, people who just have problems with it. And I'll say a couple of things. So one, emotional intelligence is not just about expressing your own emotions, and it's not only about processing your own emotions only. So what something makes you angry or frustrated, and just processing that. But also is about understanding how your actions make other people feel. And how are you able to engage and be essentially, as humans, likable. That's what we all look forward to in our human interactions. The two examples I'll tell you from day-to-day living. When we do interviews in the British Council, and we talk about communication and influencing. So we have a skill called communication and influencing, because communication is not really worth anything. The reason for communication is to influence people. And the higher you are as a manager or a director, what you are asked about, so the first level of communication is just to share information. It's just to say, this is the data. And then you go into sharing information that is more complex in different ways. So rather than just to send an email and so forth. The highest level for influencing for us is emotional intelligence. Is to understand, if I want Tim to do something for me or to agree with my point of view, what are Tim's hidden inner motivations that I can appeal to agree with my position, rather than just start saying facts to him for no reason. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I came across recently with a senior leader from the UK, this is a director of the Royal Institute in the UK, which is a massive organization that looks at science research. And she was talking about they have a senior leadership team, around 10, I think 3 or 4 men and 6 women. And one of their colleagues, one of the men, kept interrupting the women when they spoke in this meeting. And it was this awkward moment that they're all senior and they're trying, people are getting a bit annoyed and they're trying to find the best way of telling this colleague, are you aware you are doing it? And in fact, when they started having the conversation, he wasn't aware. It was a lack of emotional intelligence. He was a bit more enthusiastic, so he was not aware that he kept interrupting people, but particularly the people he interrupted were the women in this meeting. So if and in your day-to-day lives, being able to have a level of emotional intelligence and understanding how you land and how you engage is really important. You will not remember a lot of what you would hear today from here in terms of details, but what you will remember is how you felt. Whether it was a good day in general or not. If we come in 5 years' time and you'll say, well, do you remember Abdi? Hopefully you'll say yes. And hopefully it might be something positive, but you won't remember a lot of the details I'm sharing because that's just a human nature of us. And then coming to vulnerable students. So this is a really important area for us as the British Council. We have done a lot of research in how we can support vulnerable students. We are doing one now with the fantastic Christiana, so please speak to her, find information about that. 2,000 teachers have taken part in the survey. And what we really want to do is to have an equality of quality access to quality education for everyone. So irrespective of what are your means or your abilities, the goal we want to get to is an equal access to quality education. And that starts with understanding, because we talk about the term vulnerability, and it took us months to try and just simply define what we mean by a vulnerable learner. Because vulnerability, as it's been mentioned by Tim and other colleagues, there is the socioeconomic layer in terms of poverty and inability to access things. There is the special education needs layer and disability. There is the ethnicity layer. If you are from the Roma community, research says in Romania that your educational attainment is lower than average. There is the layer of refugee status. If you are a refugee in a country, similar to some of the Ukrainian students who are in the education system, who are still in the observer status, that have also affect the way you study and engage. And then if you look the support that the system is doing, what we are finding out in Romania, that you have psychologists or people who can help with, or counseling or counselors, but they're not enough. You have one counselor for 800 students in Romania. And if and when they are there, they do not have the means, the ability to intervene and support. So then the questions would be for you, someone teaching 35, 40 students in the classroom, how can you identify a vulnerable student? Because vulnerability can manifest itself in the student just acting out, shouting, not coming, not engaging. That student might be suffering from abuse at home. How much can you intervene? And then once you've identified a student has a level of vulnerability, then how can you produce or intervene the right way and bring tools that will support those students? Now, I have been a proponent and an advocate for digital and AI, as you can tell from the last hour we spoke. But this is the one area that I think actually what we need is more human intervention, less digital. Digital will help. Digital will, if you're visually impaired, digital will help you with reading things for you. If you are interacting in a certain way, digital will make your life and navigation easier. But actually where we find the biggest problem for people, because we've done research in disability and vulnerability, both for access to education and access to culture. And the thing that keeps coming back are three key areas. Attitude is number one. The attitude of people towards anyone who is different to them, it's a real barrier for people of vulnerability to have good quality life or good quality access to education. Two is the built environment. If the school does not have the right ramps, the accessible toilet, accessible hearing loops, all of that, then you can do everything else, but if the student cannot physically move easily around that space. And I've been to some of the even newer schools in Romania, and still accessibility is an issue, physical accessibility. And then thirdly, it's around content. We think about content, and particularly around curriculum, for the masses. We don't think about it, how this is going to land for different ability and mixed ability groups of students. So, and the reason I'm really passionate about this is because I mentioned previously I'm dyslexic. I didn't know I was dyslexic, and then I went, because in my childhood, my father used to work abroad in different parts of the world, and that was not picked up. So I was picked up as someone who has dyslexia when I was 17 years old in the UK, because someone simply asked a question. There is a disparity between your verbal reasoning and communication skills and what you write. And if it wasn't for just one teacher saying to me, have you thought about dyslexia? And me thinking, I don't know what you're talking about, is that a disease? Until that moment, I wasn't really aware. Some of my family members have autism, some of my family members have ADHD. We are a wonderful mix of people who have special education needs. And it always comes back to the level of limitation that you keep facing One of the colleagues that we work with as part of who has a child with special education needs in Romania talks about Bucharest as a hostile city. Because everywhere she goes, the loud music, the ability to try and get on a train or a tram and how steep those steps are, all of those difficulties, the fact that teachers do not understand her daughter's needs. She goes to the doctors and they find it difficult. Simple matters such as finding a dentist for people with special education needs or neurodivergent. All of those things are really difficult layering and adds to the vulnerability of those students. And if we are, every time that we have done research, an inclusion or an introduction of new technologies, whether it's AI, smartphones, or whatever it is, it deepens the level of inequality. It never lessens the level of inequality. It deepens the level of inequality, and we end up with group of people who are more vulnerable, more marginalized than, and some people who have fantastic approach to these types of things. And the gap in there is going to be with you, with teachers, with human, with people, with interaction, with changing attitude, and making sure that when you go and talk to the ministries, to the hub, to the inspectorates, you advocate for those vulnerable students who need the support and the help of the system.
Just to add to what Abdi said, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you said, you have to ask yourself, why is it continuing as well? There's been some positive change, but not great change, I would say. And in my opinion, this comes down to economics. The funding is not going in to support children who are at a disadvantage. And we need people like you here today, and people like Abdi, to articulate this to the ministries of education, to local authorities, to ensure that the funding goes into these schools to help these disadvantaged children. I can see somebody here, though, is disagreeing with me. Please speak up. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for the chance to speak. I don't think this is the reason, because only 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, I went to a strike. The teachers in the state system are thinking about going on a strike. So I don't think the reason is economics. This country is very rich. We all know this. The reason is, it's called in English, volition, or the will. The will to change. This is the main problem. We don't want to change. This is my personal opinion, but I'm not the only one who thinks so. The political system is ready to make the change, but something is keeping us from making that change. And I think change is possible. This is what I think.
I agree with you, and that's why we talk about attitude. Attitude is the first thing that needs to change, and then things will follow.
Thank you very much.
I also agree as well, just to add to that. And I think it is about attitude and having the willingness to change. My point about the economics is that somebody is holding the purse strings. Somebody must be willing to divert the funding as well into the educational system to support those children. So actually your argument and my argument are essentially the same thing. Thank you very much for expressing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you very much. Very interesting ideas. Thank you for your contributions today. Is there any very last strong question you'd like to ask, or is there any idea that you'd like to share with us? Maybe what are you leaving this meeting with. I'm a cell educator, I'm a huge cell educator, and I'm leaving this meeting with the idea that I'm doing it, I'm doing the right thing, thinking that social and emotional learning is one of the most important aspects of teaching. Obviously, AI is here to stay, whether we like it or not, so we have to find ways around it. We have to find ways to deal with it and to help our students build on their higher order thinking skills, which they can do so well with the help of artificial intelligence. How about you here? What are you leaving with? What's the idea? What are the ideas that you're leaving this meeting with? You're taking home? Hope. Thank you very much. Is there anything more than hope?
Hope and a prayer.
Hope and a prayer. Okay. Any other ideas? What are you leaving with?
Inspiration.
Inspiration. That's great. That's great.
From you.
Thank you very much. I'll buy you coffee later.
I'm not surprised, Anything else that you'd like to tell us? Yeah, what are you leaving with? Do you want to say something? No? I thought your face wanted to say something. Enthusiasm, okay. Yeah. Critical thinking. Gratefulness, wow, thank you. Yeah. Are you doing the right thing at the moment? Yes, I think you're doing the right thing at the moment. And I'm sure that you've added at least a tiny little thing to what you already know. And I hope you're leaving with some new friends as well. And you would like to say something? Abdi, would you like to say something to finish off with?
For me, I just want to leave with three things. One is very well done for taking part in this, in your own continuous professional development. You asked about how can you improve yourself. This is part of it. This is lifelong learning. So very well done for being here with us on your Saturday. Thank you very much to Fischer, to the National Geographic, to everyone who's taken part in this program and making it possible. Two, from me, AI is not good and is not bad. It's just a tool.
It's just a fact.
So there is not animosity towards AI, and there is no love towards it. It's just there as a tool to be engaged with. And three, please, as much as you can, and I know how difficult that is because my mother is a teacher, spend more time with your students. Engage on a human level with your students and allow them. There is nothing more depressing to me than when I walk into a classroom and it's really quiet. Students need to speak, to engage, and that's part of communicative approach rather than just a lecture, which I'm sure none of you do. Thank you very much.
Tim. Thank you very much, Abdi.
Thank you, Abdi. It's been a pleasure to be on stage with both of you. And it's also been a pleasure to be here with all of you today. This was not just about us sitting here lecturing you. This was about us learning from you as well. This was just as much a learning experience, well, particularly for me, and I'm sure for Abdi, as it was, I hope, for you learning something from us. And I would just like to also just say a big thank you to all of the team at Fischer International, to the wonderful work the British Council does across the world and here in Romania as well. But I would like to say a special thank you to all of you that are here today. I'm sure most of you, nearly all of you, will be educators in some kind, for the work that you do day in, day out. We know how difficult it is to get up on a Monday morning thinking you've got to go through to Friday afternoon and keep that motivation up. You are the people who are teaching the future generation. So please keep doing what you are doing. And we know we're in safe hands with everybody here today. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you very much. Thank you both very much for being here, for sparing some very important time at the weekend to be with us. Thank you, all of you who again spent some of your free time to be here with us. Thank you for watching us online. I think people here are not only educators, I think I can spot some future educators as well, or direct beneficiaries of our education, you know. So there's some young, very young members here. Well, she's not convinced that she wants to say hello back. Okay. I would like to also give a special thank and a round of applause to one of the main culprits of this event, Daniela. Thank you very much, Daniela. She's always very optimistic, and she's always got lots of lovely ideas about masterclasses, and she can do them all, you know. So thank you, Daniela, for bringing us all together here. And I really hope there will be more episodes. There will be more episodes. And I really hope to see you again, all of you here, all of you online. Hopefully, you know, people who are watching us from the comfort of their zone, from the comfort of their homes, sorry, will be able to join us face to face as well. And I hope that we won't meet in 2014, but much earlier. So thank you very much. I would like to thank all the contributors. Thank you, Nicoletta, Christiana, Radu there, Tim Abdi, for being here with us. And have a lovely spring, yes. Have a lovely Matishoa tomorrow. You see, I'm wearing one, and I hope you are wearing some as well. Happy spring, and I hope to see you soon. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.